Thank you for joining us here for the first of our quarterfinal matches here at the Syracuse Open. Modern is the format, and our first matchup is Red-Green Breach from Matt Voltz versus Alan Breitman, both of the two New York players here in the Syracuse Open. Voltz will get to be on the play. Important to note that his build of Red-Green Breach is the Summoner's Trap build, and that's going to be excellent here. A battle of upstate New York versus New York City here. Breitman from Elmont, New York, whereas Matthew Voltz calls Poughkeepsie home. And game is underway. Both players have kept on 7 from Voltz. It will be a wooded foothills for stomping ground, and he will suspend a search for tomorrow.
Very good start for Voltz here. If the game is all about making land drops and nothing is really happening on the other side, eventually Valakut just kills the blue-white player.
Breitman will suspend his own card. His is Ancestral Vision. You're right, those extra land drops early in this game, that's usually what is fought over.
Yep.
Counter off search for tomorrow. Voltz will continue on in the ramp department. Looks like a Farseek on turn 2. So he's going to go up to 3 lands here, looking to go to 4 and maybe even 5 on turn 3. The deck is capable of a turn 3 kill if it has a breach on that third turn. This is the draw he would need to make it happen.
Yep. In the face of blue-white control, though, presumably there will be some mana leak mana facing him down. Unlikely that we'll see that be the line for this game.
Yeah, even if he has it, he likely doesn't go for it. Counter off Ancestral Vision for Breitman, just passes back. Search for Tomorrow is on the stack. Will it resolve? Big question here. You see Breitman does have a mana leak, and he's going to counter it. It looks like a main deck copy of Negate takes care of Search for Tomorrow.
I like it. You got to aggressively go for these spells early so you don't just die without any time to set up your game plan.
Only land left in Voltz's hand is Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. Looks like he has a Obstinate Baloth, a Summoner's Pact, a Through the Breach. He will just play Valakut and pass the turn.
Another thing about these early ramp spells, Breitman has a mana leak in hand. The more lands Voltz gets into play, the less that matters.
Exactly. It's that ramp-free mana leak scenario where mana leak has a short lifespan because eventually they'll just start paying for everything.
Yep, you just got to start countering things as soon as you can.
Here's Obstinate Baloth for Voltz, and this is going to be interesting as he mana leaks it, because this is a creature.
Yeah, anytime a creature is countered, if Voltz has a summoning trap, you can cast it for 0.
It's countered. No trap, though. He passes back, and no land drop. This is a great opening for Breitman.
It's an interesting thing that happens with the Obstinate Baloth. This is not the matchup where it shines, but if Breitman lets it resolve and, say, has to path to exile it.
Hey, it's a ramp spell. That's
exactly
what they want.
Yeah.
4th land from Breitman. He says go and passes back. Voltz will try for another Baloth. 2 copies in the main for the Red-Green Breach deck.
At this point, Breitman knows both that Voltz has already missed a land drop, and last turn there was no summoning trap. If he wanted to mana leak it, it would have been safe.
Yeah, looks like he just doesn't have the counter, but we'll go to Breitman's 5th turn. He takes the Ancestral Vision, takes the 3 extra cards, and now, with a full grip, looks like he has multiple Cryptic Commands at the ready. He has Gideon Jura here. We could Cryptic Command, or he could just go for a Planeswalker. Here's Gideon Jura. Comes into play. Going to go up to 8 loyalty. Obstinate Baloth must attack it.
Now the danger, if Voltz has been hanging out with a Through the Breach and an Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, a land off the top will end this one in short order. It would actually be lethal on this turn.
Yeah, and that's the danger, right? If all he was worried about was Primeval Titan, 4 lands means he's safe. But I agree with you here, and this may have been a big misstep by Breitman. Bloodstained Mire off the top for Voltz.
And I don't know about Emrakul. I believe that Breach Titan is available, though.
Right.
That one's also pretty good.
Valakut in play means, and this is important, if he breaches the Titan into play, I guess, he can't kill the Gideon Jura with Valakut triggers, so the creature will have to attack Gideon. But here's Through the Breach. And it is Primeval Titan. Going to get 2 lands. Typically, it's a pair of Valakuts here. He gets a pair of mountains on the attack, and he can 18 Alan and attack down the Gideon.
Yep, that would leave Alan at 1, dead to any mountain. I believe he also just has a Lightning Bolt in his hand.
Right. And that's what's going to happen. So the first Titan trigger gets 2 copies of Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. You see, so there's 3 Valakuts, not actually a mountain itself, and there's 4 mountains. Here's the attack. Trigger off Primeval Titan. He'll get 2 more mountains. That's 5 and 6, so they all those mountains will trigger Valakut for each of the Valakuts. So each mountain triggers all 3. So that's 3 lightning bolts off the first mountain, 3 triggers off the second mountain. It's 18 damage, and that damage does not have to go at Gideon. That can go at Alan.
Yeah. And if you look at the previous turns, this is not the matchup for Obstinate Baloth. This is really, 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 really not the matchup for Gideon Jura.
All right, so Gideon down to the attack. Triggers take care of Alan. And at 1, that is a tough turn of events for Alan. He draws Mana Leak, plays Ghost Quarter. You don't want to Ghost Quarter Valakut here. That would kill him.
Yeah. And I think we're just going to be having to go into game 2 in pretty short fashion here.
Any land drop kills Alan from here, and the red-green breach deck is about 40 mana sources.
Still a lethal attacker on the table on top of that.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, an attack from Baloth. Cryptic. We'll see what the modes are. Cryptic Command. I mean, Matt Voltz, I believe, has a Summoner's Pact. He could just pact for Tribe Elder. Tap draw for Breitman. Okay, red mana. Lightning Bolt. Does that work? Sure does. Game 2. Matt Voltz, 1-0.
Ample mana to pay for Mana Leak.
A harsh lesson there for Alan Breitman on the card Through the Breach.
Yes. You cannot tap out in this matchup.
Right, and that may be one of the difficulties with blue-white control. If he never taps out, though, how does he win?
Yeah, that is a problem.
Right? I mean,
he's crunching pretty hard on those copies of Vendilion Click in this matchup. He has to have enough stuff to stop Voltz from setting up, resolving any of the big spells, and then hope to be able to clock with the Vendilion Click somehow.
Right. Eventually, if he never taps out, Voltz, who had already a Valakut in play, will just start to play mountains and kill Alan that way.
Yep. It's a definite rock and a hard play situation. And as we go into sideboarding, Voltz, we have another copy of Summoning Trap, 2 Lightning Bolts, a Grim Lavamancer, a Shatterstorm, 2 Ancient Grudge, an Anger of the Gods, 2 Sudden Shock, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Obstinate Baloth, and a Crumble of Dust. Summoning Trap's the big card here.
Yeah, so for the matchup here, this is interesting. So the red-green breach deck is going to try to play a control game.
Yep.
In that, it's not pure control. You're not going to go as late as you possibly can, but he's going to want to set it up so that Alan has to have 2 or 3 counter spells in one turn. So Summoning Trap you mentioned is great. The big card is Through the Breach, actually. That he can play it on Alan's end step, untap, and try again is one of the scariest parts.
Yep, that one definitely not coming out of the deck in this matchup. And you can also go ahead and bring in Relic of Progenitus. It's good against Snapcaster Mage.
It's good against Snapcaster Mage. It cycles. It is better than some of the cards he has in his main here.
Yeah, that's mostly what it is. He has these Anger of the Gods, which aren't doing anything, and Obstinate Baloth. That's just kind of mismatched.
Yeah, I mean, so how Matt has built his deck's very interesting here. Obstinate Baloth and Anger of the Gods are 2 of the best cards, or actually not 2 of the best cards. They are the best cards in a traditional red-green breach sideboard. So Matt has played all 4 of them in the main, which just gives, I mean, to be fair, you board them in about half the time. So when he's playing the right matchup, he's getting a lot of value. This is a matchup where you wouldn't bring them in. So, okay, Matt can board them back out and just make his deck better in that regard.
And this matchup specifically is convincingly good, so that didn't really hurt him too much there.
No, definitely a heads-up thing. On Breitman's side, we have a lot of different spells, 12 of them to be exact. Stony Silence, Spellskite, Dispel, Celestial Purge, Surgical Extraction, Glenelander Archmage, Negate, Dismember, Aven Mind Sensor, Timely Reinforcements, Engineered Explosives, and Rest in Peace.
Big hit here is Negate. You also can bring in Dispel. It doesn't hit a lot of things. It does deal with Through the Breach and Summoning Trap, so I do think that's enough utility where you want to bring Dispel in. You do see players bring in Surgical Extractions in matchups like this. You can Mana Leak Primeval Titan and then deal with all of them. I never like being on that plan, but it is something I see players do.
There's a better plan here, though. You can, because he is not a red deck, he is a Ghost Quarter Tectonic Edge deck, and he can get all the Valakuts with a card like Surgical Extraction, and that's actually good here.
Yeah, that option is good. It's a little less good considering that Voltz's specific build has copies of Emrakul that he can still set up.
Traditional Breach, that's a lights out play against Voltz. It's still a good play, but there's work to be done.
Yep.
All right, players are going to get ready for game 2 here. And Star City Games is happy to announce this week Grand Prix Atlanta. That's coming up, and our website is now live for the event. So this is coming up in early August. So just under 2 months away. It is going to be in Kaladesh Limited. It is the first Premier level event after Kaladesh is released. That's the next set, which is going to come up in late September. So registration is now open for the event. You can go over to starcitygames.com/GPAtlanta to register. And you're going to want to be sure to register before September 9th, as we are guaranteeing exclusive Grand Prix playmats to all early registrants.
Yeah, if you know you're going to go, you may as well get it, right?
So, game number 2, Allen is on the play. As they get ready, we have some results from across the top 8. Remember, we'll get to as many of these matches as we can. Chris Anderson up 1 game on Mac Schrantz. That's in the Jund Mirror. We have Nick D'Ambrose and Tom Ross going to 3. Ross Miriam wins game 1 over Andrew Boswell. So for game 2, players trade tap lands to start. Hallowed Fountain and Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. You see a sideboarder Glenelander Archmage in Breitman's hand.
That's a strong one here.
And Voltz just happy to trade some tap lands with Breitman. Because his deck doesn't have a card like Crumble to Dust, the pressure is actually on Alan Breitman to win the game.
Yeah, and that's also something I've heard you and the other Valakut players discussing a lot, is playing around Crumble to Dust. You wouldn't expose a naked Valakut on turn 1 necessarily, because you want to respect that card.
Yeah, you would only do it if you had another Valakut that you could make before turn 4.
Right.
And now Breitman will end step a Vendilion Click. This is a great way to get some pressure going.
Yeah, this is his clock. Having this is really big for him.
So we'll look at Voltz's hand. Through the Breach, it's his best card in the matchup. Cinderglade, Mountain, Cinderglade, Summoner's Pact, Summoning Trap, Emrakul. So 3 more lands, 1 Breach. If the Breach happens, Emrakul's coming in, so he has the threat. Pact and Trap.
Now, if Breitman's Vendilion Click plays like mine do, whatever card he puts on the bottom of Voltz's deck, Voltz will immediately draw off of the click.
Most likely, I believe Alan Breitman wants to take Through the Breach here. It is, what Voltz will try to do is play 2 things in 1 turn. He'll try to end step, Through the Breach, untap, Summoner's Pact. It would require 2 counterspells from Alan. He's going to go ahead and take Emrakul, which means that Voltz, it's not bad. Voltz will have to do this thing where if he wants to play Through the Breach, he'll have to Pact for whatever a Titan and then cast Through the Breach, which means if Breach is countered, he loses the turn.
The thing about it, all that other stuff, Breitman has a lot of play against. He has copies in the Gate, Man Leak. He can beat all of these spells, not be too concerned. The thing about it is picking Emrakul, though, is Voltz can never just cast Emrakul as a spell.
Right. Emrakul's not particularly great in this matchup. He's a threat, but Voltz would always rather have Titan here.
Yep.
Especially because if he tries to cast Titan, Alan can't really counter it with that trap in his hand.
Yep.
So Vendilion Click hits Voltz down to 16. We go back to Voltz's 4th turn. Looking into what is almost certainly Cryptic Command mana, Voltz will try for a Farseek.
Counter bounce a land seems really powerful here.
Counter bounce, yeah, that's great. It's not a creature. Yeah, counter spell. We'll see if it's counter bounce or counter draw. Looks like it's counter draw.
One reason for a counter draw, he does have a Tectonic Edge in hand, and he'll be able to activate that on his next turn.
2nd Valakut here for Voltz. Go back over to Breitman. Not to mention, Breitman now has a window to play Glenelander Archmage with a blue up. That's a really big play.
Yeah, given the hand that he's seen, that colds everything.
Yeah, there were only spells, weren't there? It was Summoning Trap, Summoner's Pact, and Through the Breach. That's going to be one heck of a play. Breitman swings for 3. He's going to delay the Archmage a turn to go ahead and Tectonic Edge away a Valakut. Can't really argue with that.
Yeah.
Pretty much any time you can land Destruction, oh wow. Yeah, this deck you want to. And now the play I talked about, he's going to Surgical away the Valakuts.
Less good considering that there's 1 on the table.
Yeah, well, 1, trying to actually damage out blue-white control the slow way with land drops with only 1 Valakut, that's pretty dicey. You might get 9, 12 damage off, but frequently they find a Ghost Quarter or something like that before you actually get them down to 0.
Do you suppose there would be any merit to destroying and surgicaling Stomping Ground?
Not typically. So a red-green breach deck traditionally plays 11 mountains, 11 or 12. So you'd get 7 of them, or four stomping grounds out of the deck. So you'd still be on 8 mountains. It's not terrible. But Valakut's probably still the prize card.
Sure.
If you did it would certainly change the way Voltz would have to play the game. Now we go back to Matt Voltz. He's going to play a copy of Grim Lavamancer. Sounds pretty cheeky as it's a creature. Alan really doesn't want to counter this.
No.
Oh no, Alan, don't do it. Logic not, he's going to counter it.
He already knows about Summoning Trap.
Oh my goodness, this is a misstep. If you've not played Summoning Trap, do not counter a creature. He has taken a game which was firmly in his control, and yeah, now we have Summoning Trap.
Well, it's in Fate's hands now. What's on top of the deck?
Oh my. All right, top 7 here. Relic of Progenitus. We got a Primeval Titan.
And,
that's going to hit, yeah.
He's down to 1 Valakut, but 1 Valakut still does work.
Right, so 1 Valakut left means this is not game over. It's not like we just got Emrakul.
Yeah.
He'll get the best he can, 2 more mountains.
But before too long, that Valakut will be able to deal with the Vendilion click on Breitman's side, and he'll have to find a new way to close this game.
Oh yeah, Breitman needs to kill this Primeval Titan immediately. And on top of that, the land ramp here means that the counter spells that are left in Alan's deck are dicey now.
Yep.
3 more damage. Voltz down to 11. What was a commanding spot for Breitman might still be okay. Here's Ghost Quarter for Breitman. He can get the last Valakut out of Voltz's deck if he wants.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Voltz only plays 3 Valakuts. That's why you're only seeing 2 out in exile.
Yeah, so we can stop this one from ever triggering. Question is, can he deal with this Primeval Titan? It is still a 6/6.
Yeah, it still attacks. Here's a mountain. That's the 6th mountain. It will trigger. This is I'm seeing some inexperience here on Alan's side of having ever played against a Valakut deck.
Yeah, he definitely should have pulled the trigger on that Ghost Quarter before Voltz was able to play a mountain.
Right, it's just things like that, or countering a creature into Summoning Trap.
Yep.
Plays that you really have to actually know. You have to have experience against the other deck, maybe just 2 or 3 matches to know all of these plays.
Yeah. And this is not one of the more popular decks in Modern, and it's an obscure build as well.
Right. You're right. Stock Breach doesn't play Summoning Trap. You normally wouldn't think about countering a creature. We have some results from the right side of the bracket. 2 games to 0. Ross Miriam playing Dredge defeats Andrew Boswell playing Jund. So he will move on to the semifinals, and we also know his opponent. He was waiting for the winner of Tom Ross and Nick D'Ambrose. It is not going to be a Dredge mirror, though. Nick D'Ambrose and his Infect deck defeats Tom Ross in 3, 2 games to 1. So it will be Nick D'Ambrose versus Ross Miriam in the semifinals.
Graveyard Jund taking down Jund. Infect poisoning Graveyard Jund.
So at this point, Alan Breitman now down to 12. Primeval Titan is just a 6/6.
With Trample.
With Trample. For the record, with the Valakuts surgically extracted, and this does matter, there are only 14 mana-producing lands in Matt Voltz's deck. So the idea that, hey, could this Titan get enough mana to cast Emrakul? The answer is no. He'll be 1 short.
Sure, though Voltz will never fail to pay for a mana leak in this game, I have to imagine.
No. It's now just board control. Gideon Jura is cast, -2, knocks the Primeval Titan off the board.
Well, that's a new clock.
Keep in mind, though, Alan had to tap out for that play. There's a Through the Breach in Voltz's hand. If he can draw Emrakul this turn, the game is over.
Yep. Summoning Trap for another Primeval Titan will also at least deal with the Gideon.
Summoner's Pact.
Yeah, right.
He would have to breach the Gideon, the Titan, to do that, which it'd be interesting to see if he does. That breach somewhat has Emrakul's name written on it now.
True. There's definitely an argument for just casting a Titan on this turn and hoping there's no interaction for that, and it can deal with the Gideon.
Right, you can just pact for the Titan and cast him.
Yeah.
Less impressive. Other green creatures he has, Courser of Krufix, Obstinate Baloth. That's about it. Sometimes you'll see these decks play a copy of Gaia's Revenge. If he had one, it would be an excellent play here.
Yeah. One good thing going for Voltz here is that Breitman has not drawn a Celestial Colonnade, so there's no situation in which he can attack for lethal on the next turn.
Can he draw Emrakul? Not yet. He'll draw Relic of Progenitus.
Maybe you can redraw.
Might be worth doing.
He's got enough mana for it.
Yeah, if he finds Emrakul, he wins. So here is the Relic. He'll cast it. And crack it. Redraw. Here we go. All cards are exiled. Matt gets another chance. Can he find his 15-15? It would take him to the semifinals. Here's the draw. Summoning Trap.
Not a bad one.
Okay, getting closer. Now he has to decide if he wants to fire off Trap or Pact.
Yeah. Also decide if he just wants to breach down the Gideon.
Right, there's a lot of options here. He gets one threat on the board.
The most conservative line is to just cast the Titan. Breitman has demonstrated difficulty in dealing with the first one.
6 mana from Voltz. He wants more. Here's the Summoning Trap.
If this hits Emrakul, it's a big problem. Breitman will still have options to play this game. Something like Cryptic Command to tap it down in combat. Can still interact somewhat with that.
Well, yeah, he can tap it down and then kill it with Gideon, right? That actually works?
Right, yeah, Gideon is not a spell, it's a permanent.
Well, Trap doesn't find Emrakul anyway. It does find Primeval Titan, though. So more lands are going to come out of the deck. Remember, all the Valakuts are off in exile, so these are just mana producers. There are no utility lands, really, in Red-Green Breach. Mostly because other lands have to have Mountain on them.
There was a very, very small percentage play. If Voltz found a fetch land and a land, he can't find 2 fetch lands, so you just end up dead to 1 hit from Gideon. That's probably a little aggressive, but he could take a couple more cards out of his deck before he has to draw if he found fetch land with Primeval Titan.
Gideon, 0/6/6. It's going to attack. All right, Voltz will go to 2 if he takes this damage, and he will.
Now a Snapcaster Mage would be lethal.
6th land from Breitman, and he'll cast Glen Alendra Archmage with double blue up.
Also lethal.
Yeah, that might just seal it. I don't know that Matt Voltz has a way to get out from under this one.
Yeah, this is bad news. I believe he drew Courser of Krufix. This can buy him some time.
Well, if he has a land, it does. The flyer actually just kills him, though, without a land.
He's still able to attack with the Titan and gain some life off of those triggers.
Flips over the top card of the deck. Did Matt play a land this turn? Emrakul is in waiting. He's got it through the breach. Now, Archmage, still an issue.
Yeah, where were you last turn, Emrakul?
Yeah. Still, though, I like that play of Cryptic plus Gideon to actually just take care of Emrakul.
That's a combo.
That's sweet. Looks over at Emrakul. He'll be able to block the Gideon, but the 2 damage from Glen Alendra Archmage looks lethal at the moment, unless Matt has a land. He will attack with Primeval Titan. That'll gain him some life. Those lands will enter the battlefield.
Yep.
Guess he just has to make that play.
I believe he postured as if he was attacking Gideon, so that'll be off the table.
Yeah, he is attacking Gideon. So 2 lands into play. So important with that Courser. So now Matt will go to 4.
And I really like getting the fetch lands here. Now that the
Yeah.
Courser is in play, you can use those to manipulate your draws.
Yeah, that's great. So he's attacking Gideon. 2 mana up from Breitman, 1 card in hand. Yeah, that Gideon will be down. But Breitman stays at 10. Make sure that top card of Voltz's deck flipped over. And another copy of Through the Breach.
Definitely going to want to fetch before drawing that one.
Summoner's Pact. I'm actually a little surprised. Okay. To see that.
He definitely, if he can resolve this, he doesn't want to draw Through the Breach. It's likely this just gets countered by the Glenlana Archmage, but it's going to counter something. He'll be taking less damage if this comes back as a 1/1.
All right, yeah.
Buys more time that way.
That's neat. So yeah, and Breitman does have to counter, so Archmage persists back as a 1/1. Different die on Archmage, please. Why did Voltz go to 5? Voltz then finally ends the turn by making his land drop. Goes to 5. And now we're back to Breitman. He's at 10. Looks like he drew Ancestral Vision. We're past that point, but here comes Archmage. It'll put Voltz back down to 4. The draw from Voltz will be a second copy of Through the Breach, but nothing to breach just yet.
Unless he forgets, there's no way he's not cracking a fetch land in his upkeep.
Yeah, he just doesn't want that. Alan Breitman suspends Ancestral Vision. Not on 5, though. We'll go with 4.
May as well be in 100.
Upkeep. He's going to draw the Breach.
Oh, wow.
Show Search for Tomorrow.
I believe that's just a misstep on Voltz's part.
I mean, Breach is a very good card in this matchup. It's worth having 2 of them. It might actually be worth having 2 of them.
Yeah, should he draw Emrakul, makes it so there's a chance that he could resolve 1.
Yeah.
Though with Breitman going down to 2, if 2 lethal attackers, assuming that this attack goes through, breaching an Emrakul seems like a little bit of overkill.
You can breach a Sakura Tribe Elder at this point, and it's probably good.
Have you ever done that one?
Oh, yeah. Well, usually it involves you breach him, and then you sack him to get him out. Yeah, why not, though? 1 damage, sure. So an attack, he gets more lands and gains more life. Breitman down to 2, Voltz up to 6. Breitman, Surgical Extraction and Negate. That's not going to do it. He extends the hand, and it is Matt Voltz with Red-Green Breach 2-0 on to the semifinals.
Little Craw Worm with Trample Beatdown.
Yeah.
Interesting games.
Very interesting games. Matchup pretty on Voltz's favor, and he knew his deck and he played it well. Was benefited, I think, from some newness to this matchup for Breitman. And when you play a deck like Breach, which is, in tier 2 of popularity for sure, there is some edge to be gained in that way.
Definitely, and one issue that Breitman had is, even though he had dealt with all of the Valakuts, he didn't really have answers to multiple 6/6s. He was able to Gideon 1 down, couldn't find something like one of his Condemns or a